Hey, welcome back to another 17 Hats tutorial. If this is your first time here, my name is Jebb Graff. I am a commercial photographer based near Raleigh, North Carolina. I specialize in brand portraits, brand story libraries, and motion pieces that help promote your brand and tell its story. Today's video is going to cover two simple things. One of those simple things is a really important simple thing, and the other one's less important but fun. I also want to say thank you to 17 Hats for sponsoring today's video. That's just really cool. I feel like a real influencer saying thank you for sponsoring the video. So now I guess I got to do TikTok dances or something. I don't know. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So as always, the first thing you're going to do is open up your 17 Hats and log into it. Log into the dashboard. Remember, the dashboard is this area you see when you first log in. And so first things first, what we're going to do is look at today's date. What's it say right there in the quick look? Today is March 17th. And if you didn't know, that means today is St. Patrick's Day. And so in honor of St. Patrick's Day and in honor of the green in the 17 Hats logo and brand, we're going to change the background color of our dashboard to green. This is really easy to do. So what we're going to do is navigate right over here to the cog in the upper right hand part of the window. It's right up here. If you hover over it, it says account settings, and you're going to click on that. Now that you're in your account settings screen over here under settings, under my account, you'll see brand preferences. Go ahead and click on that. Now don't jump to colors and fonts. That's something else. Colors and fonts are for the part of 17 Hats that is client facing. That's what your customers are going to see. We're working on your account. So right here under the account tab, we're going to go down here where it says background and click on background drop down. You see it says gradient deep ocean right now. Like that might be, I think that might be the default for all new accounts. I don't know. So anyway, what we want is green, and we can simply type that into this filter and see what our options are. We've got lots of options. Abstract green. Oh, it's kind of a gradient here from like a aqua green to a more yellow, green, yellow up there. We got some other options here, but I know that I just want some straight up green. Look at that beautiful, springy St. Patrick's Day. And as I'm sure you could tell, you have other options should you decide that you want something a little closer to your brand colors or just something that makes you feel good, like black sands. That makes me want to be at the beach. And so that's making me kind of sad because I can't go to the beach anytime soon. So I'm going to switch back to the color green. How about that? There it is. Bam. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to click the save button over on the right. And the background has been updated. All right. That was simple. Real simple, right? So now we can move on to the thing I mentioned that is simple but very important. So let's go back to the dashboard and let me come back and talk to you for a second. Now, we have covered in the past two videos, we've talked about lead capture forms. One of them was about how to install a lead capture form on your own website, and the other was about how to create your first lead capture form. So now I want to talk about something that has to do with lead capture, but is not a lead capture form. It's kind of the original lead capture form, so to speak. This is when somebody gives you their information, say on a business card, or somebody you just got a good memory and you actually remembered their name and their contact information, and you want to do some manual data entry into 17 Hats. You want to add your contact manually. I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, we're back at our dashboard. Remember, you can always, if you feel like you're lost somewhere deep in menus or something, you can always get back to something you know by just clicking dashboard. You can refresh your entire dashboard by clicking the 17 Hats logo if something feels like it's not catching up to what you're doing. You know, it feels buggy. It's not really a bug. It might just be that you need to refresh. So hit that 17 Hats logo in the upper left for a total refresh, and dashboard, you know, when you're kind of lost. So let's go ahead and click on the contacts menu item over here in the side rail under the word dashboard. Here we are, the big empty contacts page. Don't worry, once you have added one contact, at least one, like we're going to see in a few minutes, you are going to see much more on this page. But for now, it's empty. And 17 Hats has prompted us here that we can add a first contact. I'm going to go ahead and use this button. It doesn't matter which one you use, but I'm using this one just out of the habit of this is where you're always going to be going to add a new contact if you're adding a contact manually. So I'm going to click on that. It's in the upper left part. And here you get two options, basic contact form and full contact form. We're going to start with the basic contact form, and then we'll go to what the full contact form would have covered after we're done with the basic contact form. So click on that. We get this little modal pop up here where we add our information. So let's see, I was at a ribbon cutting and I met Fred Berger. And his company is Burger Time. And he's not a client yet because he's not paying me yet. He is a hot lead. He asked me when we met at the ribbon cutting to send him some information so that we can maybe work together, put together a quote about me doing some creative consulting for Burger Time. So we'll say his email address is Fred Berger. He just happens to have an email address at my domain. That's really weird. And then his phone number. I'm beginning to think this guy's not real. His title, he's going to be the owner, and the tags. So we'll get to this later, but the tags are good for adding a year tag. So we met in 2023. He is a 2023 lead. And let's say that, because this part is kind of really up to you. And one thing to remember that was told to me by somebody at 17 Hats, I don't know if it was Amanda or Jen, but either way, thank you. They pointed out that there's not really such thing as too many tags, but you don't want to be left with too little. So here I'm going to say, all right, he was interested in podcasting. He told me he was interested in a brand refresh. And he said that he would also be interested in learning how to improve his on-screen presence. Did I spell presence right? Let me know in the comments how wrong I am. Okay. So I've entered those tags. That just doesn't look right to me. I'm not going to worry about it too much right now. In fact, you know what? I'm going to just change it to on-screen look. There, that feels better. All right, so that is done. And here's one more thing before I click save. Look up here at the top of this little window. You have the option to show as company. I'm going to click show as company because when it gets down to the nitty gritty, when he decides, heck yeah, I want your consulting, I'm going to want him in here as a company because Fred is asking me to consult for Burger Time, not for Fred, the guy. But if you're, say, a portrait photographer, you probably aren't going to click show as a company because you are sending your invoice to Fred, the guy. All right, so I'm going to click save. we're seeing his contact details now. And we see this thing down here saying, excellent, it's time to create a project. We're not really ready to do that yet. We're talking about contacts today. So I'm going to go back out and we're going to add another contact and we're going to see what that looks like if we were using the full contact form. So I'll go to contacts, I'll go to add contact, and we're going to go to full contact form instead of basic like we did last time. Now here we see that we have a lot more options. We have an area to add their address. We already did this stuff for Fred Burger, but we can add if they were referred by somebody. We can add their birthday if we know it. We can add some notes about them. We can add their social media and, of course, add a project. I'm going to cancel back out of here and we're going to go back to Fred because you may be wondering, well, how do I get that stuff added to Fred? We'll click on Fred and in the upper right part of the screen, not all the way upper right, but just below that cog for settings, click on Edit. And now you can go and click on Edit Contact, and you now have all of those options that you would have had had we not chosen the basic contact entry. So here you could add his address. Notes is where you want to add things that are contact based about that particular contact. So this is where you're like, gosh, it could be anything. But for me, I might add information if I know a little bit about him. Like, let's say that he told me that he loves irises. It's just something I remembered from our conversation. It doesn't have anything to do with Burger Time or his brand necessarily, but maybe when it comes time for client gifting, if he's on my list of people I want to send a gift to, maybe I can then remember that I'm going to send him some irises. So I'll put on here, Fred loves irises. All right. We could then go, if we knew his social media accounts, we could add that stuff here. The website. Good stuff. All right. We've got all that entered. We're ready to save this contact. And we do it by clicking down here in the lower right on that green button that says save. All right. We're back to his contact page and we still have a blank project. Maybe we'll get to that on the next video. But what I want to show you here on the contact page is once you have a project here, you might want to get that stuff out of the way. And you can get it out of the way by just clicking on contact details, not edit, but contact details. And that is what collapses and expands this section. So wasn't that easy? I think so. Now you know how to add a contact manually. You know how to change the color of the background of your dashboard, and you could just, change it with the season, whatever makes you feel good. I currently, on my other brands, have it set to gray because I'm a fancy pants, snooty commercial photographer that always wears black shirts. Thanks again for watching. See you next time. Leave a note in the comments if you have any particular questions, any videos you'd like to see me cover about 17 hats in the future. But for now, I'm keeping it basic until I hear otherwise. Thanks.
Veuillez vous inscrire.